Before you rise above the noise of the world, you must first rise above the noise within yourself. Every mountain you'll ever climb begins in one place: your own mind. The doubts, the distractions, the pull of comfort, the fear of being misunderstood. These are the real obstacles, not the competition, not the critics, but the voice in your head that says, stay where you are. It's easier here. But Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. To rise above them all is not to tower over others in pride. It is to stand firm within yourself. It is to walk with clarity while others wander, to be anchored in values while others chase approval. To remain steady when the world sways wildly from trend to trend. This is not a video about superiority. It's a call to sovereignty. A return to the self that you were meant to become. Not by chance, but by choice. You don't rise through applause. You rise through alignment. You rise every time you choose patience over panic, purpose over popularity, discipline over indulgence. You rise in the quiet, in the daily invisible acts that no one claps for. Because that's the secret. The Stoics never chased glory. They forged strength in private, in silence, in the small, repeated decisions that shape a powerful life. This journey is not about being noticed. It's about being unshakable. So if you felt the pull to go deeper, if you're tired of being tossed by moods, crowds, and outside noise, if you're ready to stop performing and start living with intention, then let this be your turning point. Each chapter in this video is a stepping stone upward. Each one is a challenge. Each one is a mirror. And at every step, the question will echo, will you rise, not once, but daily? Through mastery, purpose, presence, and perseverance, because the summit is not out there. The summit is you, leveled up, stripped of illusion, and built from virtue. This is your ascent, and it begins now. Chapter 1. Mastering what you control. There's a quiet power that begins the moment you stop trying to control everything around you and instead take full responsibility for what's within you. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses. That's where the climb begins, not with a motivational quote or some external validation, but with a single life-altering realization. You do not control the world, you only control yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who led during plague, war, and betrayal, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And he meant that, truly. Because when the world spirals into chaos, when plans collapse, people disappoint you, or the news screams fear, you still have one sacred space, your own mind, your own will. Stop chasing outcomes. Start cultivating ownership. When you obsess over what others think, how they act, what they say, you hand over the keys to your peace. You give them the power to decide how you feel. But imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and someone insults you. Traffic delays your morning. A plan falls apart. What do? Do you fall apart too? Or do you pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this within my control? That question, right there, is where mastery begins. Because it isn't passive to accept what you can't control. It's powerful, it's strategic, it's freedom. The Stoic draws a boundary, firm and clear. Other people's behavior, outside your control. The weather, outside your control, your past. Outside your control. But your thoughts, yours. Your words, yours. your actions. Always yours. And when you start living from this truth, something shifts. You stop reacting like a puppet pulled by circumstance. You start responding like a commander rooted in calm. Journaling is your battlefield map. Start each morning by asking 2 questions. What is in my control today? What is not? And then act only where your energy matters. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Most people are like leaves in the wind. You are a rooted tree. They're thrown around by gossip, traffic, criticism, or praise, but you stay grounded. Because you know that what truly defines your day is not what happens, but how you meet it. That's not just emotional maturity, that's spiritual sovereignty. Epictetus said it with fierce clarity: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. He was born a slave, and yet he was freer than most emperors, not because of privilege, but because of principle. He refused to let the outer world dictate his inner one. You can too. So here's the challenge. Right now, think of one situation that's been frustrating you lately. Something or someone that's stealing your focus. Now ask, am I trying to control something I shouldn't? And if the answer is yes, release it. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to keep bleeding energy where it never belonged. That shift, from control to clarity, is where your rise truly begins. From here, you stop chasing the uncontrollable. You stop negotiating your peace with chaos. You stop blaming, and you start building. One thought, one choice, one action at a time. This isn't a philosophy you memorize, it's one you live. And in living it, you discover something rare. That real power doesn't shout, it doesn't fight for control. It stands still, it chooses wisely, it breathes, and it rises, always rises, within. This is your foundation. The first step upward, and it begins not out there, but right here, in you. Chapter 2, Endurance over Ease. Ease is tempting, but it doesn't shape you. Ease whispers, take the shortcut. Rest a little longer, you've done enough. Endurance says, take one more step, even if it's hard. Even if no one sees. And that's what makes all the difference. Seneca once wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Not just poetic words, a brutal truth carved from experience. Because what refines you is never the comfort. It's always the resistance. You don't grow by avoiding the weight. You grow by carrying it. Think about a time you wanted to quit. Maybe it was a commitment you made to yourself, a habit you tried to build, a discipline you swore you'd hold. And then came the excuses, the fatigue, the voice that said, maybe tomorrow, but maybe you didn't give in. Maybe you showed up, even half-hearted, even shaky. And that moment, that was strength, not glamorous, but real. That's what Stoic endurance looks like, quiet, repetitive, unseen, but unshakable. The world glorifies speed. The Stoic honors stamina. Anyone can start, few can continue. Fewer still can endure without applause. Because real endurance isn't loud. It's not the viral moment. It's the early morning workout when no one is watching. It's the calm breath during an argument when every cell wants to explode. It's the steady hand that chooses principle over impulse. It's the daily invisible decision, I will not give up today. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's practical mindset training. Your obstacles aren't the enemy, they are your invitation. Each one is a forge. Testing what you value, who you are, what you're willing to rise for. Endurance doesn't mean enjoying the pain. It means respecting it. It means knowing that discomfort isn't a sign of failure. It's a signal of growth. Every time you choose the hard thing for the right reason, your soul expands. You strengthen not only your will, but your self-respect. You begin to trust yourself, not because things are easy, but because you know you won't quit when they get hard. And that kind of trust, that's rare, that's power. Let's get practical. Today, identify one area of your life where ease has become the default. Where have you been coasting? Where have you allowed resistance to win? Don't judge yourself, just notice, and then lean in. Choose one small but consistent act of endurance. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's writing for 10 minutes a day. Maybe it's saying no to something comfortable but misaligned. Make it measurable, simple, specific, and do it every day. Even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because that is the training ground. And every repetition of effort rewires your identity. You go from someone who waits to someone who rises. Remember this, endurance is not about gritting your teeth forever. It's about choosing what's meaningful over what's easy. And when you do, over time, something changes. Your threshold for hardship expands. Your tolerance for mediocrity disappears, and your life begins to take on a quiet intensity, rooted not in inspiration, but in integrity. You don't just talk about strength. You live it through the doing, through the showing up, through the stillness and struggle. And one day, you'll look back and realize you've become unrecognizable, not because the world sees it, but because you feel it. This is endurance, not just to survive, but to rise day after day above the person you used to be. Hold that line, step forward, and keep going. Chapter 3, Purpose over Popularity. There's a moment in every life where you must choose. Do you live to be liked, or do you live to be aligned? It doesn't always happen in dramatic fashion. Sometimes it's subtle, a choice to stay silent when you should speak, a compromise so small it barely leaves a mark until it does. And slowly, your life starts bending toward what is expected instead of what is true. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed." He didn't chase applause. He chased alignment. He didn't worry about being popular. He cared about being principled. Ask yourself now, when was the last time you did something because it was right, even if no one clapped for it? Even if someone misunderstood it? Even if it cost you approval? That's the price of purpose. And it's a price worth paying. Purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. It asks you to slow down, to listen inwardly, to stop chasing everyone's attention and start listening to your own conviction. It's quiet, but it's steady, and the more you follow it, the clearer it becomes. You might lose some applause. You might be called strange. You might be left out, even mocked. But you'll sleep at night knowing you didn't sell out your soul for a nod from the crowd. The Stoics were never performers. They didn't sculpt their identity around popularity. They lived for something deeper: virtue, integrity, and truth. Epictetus put it simply: don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. That's what purpose does. It's not loud. It's not dressed up for show. It is lived daily, quietly, intentionally. And here's the thing. Living with purpose is often lonely. It demands choices others don't understand. It asks for sacrifice. It will make you stand in rooms where everyone's laughing and you're not because you're bitter, but because you're awake. You see beyond the moment, beyond the flash of attention. You're building something that lasts, and that's rare. In a world that moves at the speed of attention spans, you must slow down to find what matters. Ask yourself, what would I still do, even if no one knew? What would I pursue if praise was never promised? Those questions cut deep, but they're necessary. They separate the illusion from the essence. Because popularity is reactive, it feeds off the crowd. Purpose is proactive. It flows from your core. One bends to fit in, the other rises to stand out, not in ego, but in courage. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Living for purpose means facing friction. But every time you choose it, you polish the soul, you sharpen your integrity, you forge a kind of self-respect that doesn't crumble when others disapprove. Here's your invitation. This week, take one step away from performance and one step toward purpose. Maybe it's telling the truth when silence would protect your image. Maybe it's setting a boundary that feels hard, but honors your peace. Maybe it's walking away from something that once gave you status, but now costs your soul. Whatever it is, choose it. And do it without explanation. Let it be enough that it's aligned. Let it be enough that it's yours. You don't need to be known by everyone. You need to be known by yourself. And when you are, deeply, honestly, unshakably, you rise. Not above others, but above the need to be anyone but who you're called to be. Live for that. That's purpose. And that is the path. Chapter 4. Emotional Mastery. There will be moments when something ignites inside you. A flash of anger, a wave of fear, a swell of sadness that feels like it could drown you. And in that moment, you have a choice. Do you react or do you respond? Because in that space between emotion and action lives your power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And he was right. You don't control the wind, but you can hold the sail. You don't control the flame, but you can choose not to fan it. Emotional mastery isn't about not feeling. It's not about becoming numb or cold or detached. It's about feeling fully, without being ruled by the feeling. It's about knowing when your emotions are guiding you and when they're trying to hijack your clarity. That's what the Stoics trained for. Not indifference, but discernment. Seneca taught that anger is not some uncontrollable force. It's a failure of expectation. We explode, not because the world is cruel, but because we expected it to be kind. We break down, not because life is unfair, but because we expected ease. So here's a question you need to ask yourself every time emotion rises. What was I expecting? Because buried in that answer is your map, your blueprint for emotional mastery. Emotions are messengers, not masters. They bring you information, but they should never drive your decisions. Let them knock, but don't let them take the wheel. Imagine this: you're insulted in front of others. Your body heats, your breath shortens. You want to respond fast, defend, lash out, prove something. But you pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, will this reaction move me closer to who I want to become? That pause, that breath, is not weakness. It is mastery. It is strength under control. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you always feel calm. It means you've trained yourself to remain centered in the storm, to feel anger, but not become it, to feel fear, but not let it dictate your next step, to feel overwhelmed, but still choose your response with intention. And this kind of strength, it's not built overnight. It's built in quiet, daily decisions. Each time you hold your tongue instead of snapping back, each time you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, each time you forgive instead of fueling the fire. Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And your reaction, that's where your character is revealed, not on the good days, but in the tension, in the pressure, in the chaos. So if you're in a season right now where emotions feel loud, where you're frustrated, discouraged, afraid, don't push those feelings down. But don't hand them the keys either. Sit with them, study them. Ask them why they showed up, and then choose your next move from clarity, not chaos. Here's something to try today. Write down what you're feeling, literally put it on paper, then write the story you're telling yourself about that feeling. Challenge it, question it, ask if it's true. Ask if it's useful, because sometimes the storm isn't outside, it's the story. And once you see the story clearly, you no longer have to obey it. You can rewrite it, you can reframe it, you can rise above it. Emotional mastery isn't about perfection. It's about becoming someone who chooses their response with courage and calm. And each time you do, even in small moments, you grow stronger. You earn trust with yourself. You become the kind of person others feel safe around. Because while the world spins in reactivity, you stay rooted in reason. This is the Stoic path. To feel everything, yet stay unshaken. To honor your emotions, yet obey your values. To walk into the storm and not let it change who you are. That is emotional mastery, and it begins not tomorrow. Not when life settles down, but in this moment. Right here. Right now, with this breath, with your next choice. Chapter 5, The Power of Presence. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar, it doesn't rush, it doesn't clamor for attention. It simply shows up, fully, calmly, and completely. That strength is presence, and when you learn to live in it, you stop being pulled by the noise of the world and start shaping your life from a place of quiet command. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. It's not a call to ignorance, it's a call to clarity, to anchor yourself in what is real right now, not what might happen, not what already did, but this breath, this moment, this step." Most people live in a haze of distraction. Thinking about what went wrong yesterday, worrying about what might fall apart tomorrow. But that constant mental time travel comes at a cost. It robs you of your power to act in this moment. And yet, this moment is the only place your strength lives. You cannot rewrite yesterday. You cannot predict tomorrow. But you can choose your response right now. Presence is your anchor in chaos. When your thoughts start to spiral, presence slows the spin. When anxiety tightens its grip, presence loosens it. When life feels like it's happening to you, presence reminds you you still have a say. There's a story about a Stoic general who was told terrible news before battle. His troops were afraid, his resources low. And still he paused, he breathed. He adjusted his armor, looked at the sun rising and said, "That is today's work." Let's begin. No drama, no overthinking, just presence. Just power. Here's what presence looks like in your life. It's taking a deep breath before speaking when you feel frustrated. It's noticing the way your mind wanders while talking to someone you care about and gently pulling it back. It's choosing to feel the weight of your feet on the ground instead of getting lost in future scenarios that haven't happened yet. Presence is a discipline. It's trained like a muscle. You get better at it by practicing tiny moments of awareness, like noticing the heat of your coffee, the rhythm of your breath, the way sunlight hits the wall. Seneca said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future," because that's where your life is actually happening. Not in the plans, not in the past, but here. Now, think about the people who impact you the most. They're not always the loudest. Often they're the ones who look you in the eye, who listen without interrupting, who make you feel seen because they're truly there. You can be that person, not just for others, but for yourself. You can learn to listen to your life as it unfolds, to breathe into each experience instead of rushing through it, to let the moment teach you instead of chasing what's next. Presence sharpens your decisions. When you're grounded, you don't overreact, you don't spiral, you don't say things you regret. You act with intention, you speak with truth, you choose with clarity. This is not about slowing down to a crawl. It's about moving with purpose, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, and bringing your whole self to the task at hand. The Stoics believe that greatness is not found in noise, but in precision, not in doing more, but in being more. More present, more focused, more aligned. So ask yourself today, where am I? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. What's in front of you that you haven't been fully seeing? What conversation have you been rushing through? What silence have you been avoiding? Your life is not happening later. It's happening now, and when you learn to meet it with presence, you rise, not above others, but above the chaos that once distracted you. You become rooted, clear, awake. That is the power of presence. And it begins with a breath, a pause, a choice. Right now. Chapter 6. Detachment, not indifference. There's a quiet strength in letting go, not from coldness, but from clarity. To rise above the rest, you must learn to release what you cannot hold, not with bitterness, but with peace. This is not indifference, this is detachment, and it may be one of the most difficult disciplines you'll ever practice. Epictetus once said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That insight cuts deep. It reminds you that most of your suffering doesn't come from the world, but from your grip on how the world should be. You can care deeply and still remain free. You can love fully without becoming enslaved to outcomes. You can give your best and still accept what comes. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop expecting the world to conform to your preferences. It means releasing the illusion that your peace depends on perfect conditions. Think about the moments that have caused you pain. Was it the event itself, or your attachment to a particular outcome? A job you didn't get, a person who left, a plan that fell apart. None of those things were inherently destructive, but your resistance to them, your clinging to how it should have gone, that's where the suffering took root. Detachment is choosing to let go of the demand for control while still acting with integrity. You show up, you give your all, and then you release the rest. It's the artist who paints from the soul but does not obsess over the praise. It's the friend who offers love without keeping score of what comes back. This is the Stoic way. to do what is right, not for applause, but because it is right. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength comes from detachment. It means you don't fall apart when others misunderstand you. It means you don't abandon your values when outcomes disappoint you. You begin to measure success not by results, but by alignment with your principles. Imagine this. You walk into a room to deliver a message you believe in. You speak with clarity, with purpose, but the crowd doesn't applaud. In fact, they criticize you. Would you walk away shattered? Or would you walk away centered, knowing that your truth was not dependent on their approval? That is detachment. That is freedom. Seneca put it this way: "He is most powerful who has power over himself." And often that self-mastery is tested when you don't get what you want. When things fall apart. When silence follows your effort. In those moments, your ego will scream, "This isn't fair. This isn't working. This isn't enough." But detachment whispers something quieter, something stronger. "This is what I can control. The rest is not mine to carry." Detachment is not giving up. It's showing up without being owned by the result. It's investing in the process while releasing the outcome. It's choosing peace over performance, presence over prediction. And yes, it's hard, because your ego wants guarantees, your heart wants certainty. But life will never hand you either. Instead, it offers you the chance to practice freedom. Every single day. Freedom from needing to be liked. Freedom from fearing failure. Freedom from the weight of what you cannot control. So today, ask yourself, where are you gripping too tightly? Where is your peace tied to something outside your control? Gently loosen your grasp, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stay whole. This is detachment. This is strength. This is how you rise, not above pain or love or effort, but above the chains of expectation. You don't need to be indifferent to be free. You just need to know where your power ends and where your peace begins. Chapter 7. Rise again and again. There is no final summit. No single moment of triumph where the work is done. There is only the climb, one breath, one decision, one fall, one rising, again and again. To rise above them all is not to rise once. It is to rise continually, even when the weight of life tells you not to. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not just philosophy. It is a discipline, a mindset, a way of life. You will stumble. You will fall short. You will forget who you are. But the Stoic path was never about being flawless. It was always about being faithful to your growth, to your purpose, to the fire within you that refuses to go out. Every setback is a mirror. It reflects where you still have work to do, where your principles are untested, where your ego clings and your courage hesitates. It hurts, but it also shows you what matters most. To rise again is not to erase your wounds. It's to carry them with wisdom. It's to let failure shape you, not into bitterness, but into resilience. It's not glory that builds you. It's grit and the willingness to begin again when nothing around you encourages it. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." And that courage is not loud. It's not always a grand declaration. It's often quiet, small, invisible to others, but monumental inside. It's waking up after a dark night and saying, "I will try again." It's walking into the same challenge, but this time with greater clarity. It's being willing to be a student of your own soul. Think about the last time you gave up too soon. Not because you couldn't go on, but because you doubted the value of continuing. That moment wasn't a failure. It was a fork in the road. And you can revisit it now, not with regret, but with resolve. To rise again is not to prove something to others. It's to honor what you were meant to become. It's to realize that your past self is not your ceiling. It's just the foundation for your next ascent. Life will test you. With silence, with disappointment, with fatigue. And it's in those moments that rising again means the most, not because the conditions are ideal, but because you've decided who you want to be, regardless of conditions. There's a kind of nobility in persistence, the kind that doesn't scream for attention, the kind that moves forward when the applause has faded, when the results aren't immediate, when no one is watching but your conscience. That's where character is carved. You've fallen before. So what? The Stoics didn't ask you to be perfect. They only asked this: will you get up with more clarity than you had before? Will you refine your response? Will you carry your pain, not as a burden, but as proof that you kept going? True strength isn't shown in how fast you rise. It's shown in how often you do. And each time you rise, you leave behind the weaker version of yourself. Each time your threshold expands. Each time your discipline deepens. Even the smallest act of rising, getting up, trying again, holding to principle when it would be easier not to, is an act of rebellion against the chaos of the world. So pause here and ask yourself, where have you stopped short lately? Where have you allowed discouragement to win? Where can you rise again? Not dramatically, but deliberately. Write it down. Commit to one step. Not 10, just one, because when you do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, something inside you begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who almost changed, and you start becoming the person who did. You're not here to avoid the fire. You're here to become forged by it. And each time you rise, quietly, faithfully, you become stronger than the storm. Not by escaping it, but by walking through it, eyes open, heart steady. This is your story. This is your ascent. Rise again and again and again. Conclusion: you weren't made to blend in. You were built to rise. Not above others in pride, but above the noise, the fear, the hesitation that once held you back. Marcus Aurelius didn't write for applause. He wrote to himself, so that in the quiet hours of doubt, he could return to something solid, something unshakable. That's what you're building here, with every choice, every breath, every rise. You're not chasing perfection. You're choosing discipline when distraction tempts. You're choosing alignment when the world rewards imitation. And that in itself is rare, sacred, powerful. Remember, the mountain is not out there. It's within. And every step you take, every time you fall and rise again, you carve a new path for the person you were always meant to become. So don't wait. Start now. Live like your soul is watching. Because it is. And if this message found you in a moment of reflection, if something deep within you stirred while listening, then this isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new ascent. Subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy. Let this channel be your companion in the quiet journey upward. New reflections, ancient wisdom, and timeless reminders to help you stay grounded so you can rise. Your life is the climb. Make it count and never stop rising.